Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. I think I found my solution for sound check to start. It's just funny to think of the things that, because this is a learning process for me. I haven't done live streaming before. So to think about the funny little things that you can come up with that um, help the process or whatever. So in this case, previously, what I was doing was I would. Listen to myself speak and then adjust the volume because like I have this on my phone as well. And of course, the reason is to make sure that the stream is live. Um, Also because I navigate a whole bunch of screens all the time, I can't see the chat. So if somebody did say something in the chat, uh, I wouldn't see it, and then this way I can see it. So, anyways, um, yeah, it's funny the things you learn in the process of starting something new and whatever. But anyways, so subject of today, same as yesterday, different team, which is this is going to be part 3 of my Be a Real NHL GM series, where I take a look at uh, a different, like each day, a different franchise, and come up with what I would do to fix the team. Um, And of course, that's under the assumption that there's a problem with the team, and all the teams that I'm evaluating are where the GM has been around for a while and hasn't accomplished much, uh, is on the hot seat in general. Um, yeah, any number of reasons why the team needs something done to improve. So, but primarily it has to do with the tenure of the GM and then teams that have underperformed as well. So, anyways, so today is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Uh, Yesterday was the Winnipeg Jets, and just on the note of the Winnipeg Jets, and also today, um, this is as always unscripted, no major prep work outside of knowing the subject. And so yesterday, I spent an hour humming and hawing, trying to figure out what to do with the Winnipeg Jets, and my conclusion was there wasn't much I could do. That's, I guess, part of the reality of doing things on the spot is you don't know what the result's going to be. And in this case, hopefully, there's more I can think of to do with the team. But it was a tough go with Winnipeg yesterday. Um, so yeah, so we shall deal with Columbus today. Last bit uh, of what's the saying? Anyways, stuff to deal with before I start. So I'm gonna move things to 1 p.m. Eastern, which is a noticeable shift from the previous times. Uh, it better meets my schedule. So yeah, that's the move, and might as well do this now while the viewership is lesser. And I mean, to be honest, you can always watch the recording of the live stream. So really at your leisure, and yeah, I otherwise things are getting in the way, and it hasn't been too easy. So, anyways, uh, that's the last thing, and on to the Blue Jackets. So the GM there is Jarmo Kekalainen, and he's been GM for 9 years and 8 months. So a long time. Uh, and then in terms of performance during that time frame, the team has been in the league since 2000. So that is 21 seasons because there's a lockout. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So, yeah, so he's been in for almost half of their existence. Um, since their inception, they have missed the playoffs essentially through their entire beginning. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight years of missing the playoffs. Um, they made it to the first round and got swept. And then 4 years of missing the playoffs, lost in the first round, 2 years of missing the playoffs, then lost in first round, lost in first round, lost in second round, lost in first round. That's the COVID year, so there was a qualifying round. So I guess technically that's lost in first round, and then missed playoffs. So he got in 2013. So not because he came in partway through the year, that I guess we won't count it against him. So he's made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times out of 9 seasons. 3 times only to the first round, 2 times to the second round. So, I mean, it's not the worst track record, but it's definitely not good. So that's his track record. I would say he's very much due to be replaced. So hence what I'm working on here. So currently their cap hit is 80.386 million, cap space of 2.114. So some space, but in my opinion, not a good team. So I had them. I'll give you 1 second to pull this up. I have them to finish at the bottom of their division. And I mean, at best, third last in their conference. And that's at best. So pretty much I have them right at the bottom with Montreal and Buffalo. You could even say they're below Montreal. So really I think they're in tough shape. That's just my opinion. So where to start? So what I discovered in the first stream is that I can't go through everybody because a lot of the smaller moves I would make would be universal across all teams. So as I mentioned yesterday, Alex Chason I would have picked up pretty much for any team because he'd be an improvement on their lowest performer. And so for me to do that with every team, it just doesn't make sense. So anyways, so we essentially are looking at the biggest moves that that I would make, and that would be all the major players, larger contracts, and things like that. So, and then of course I'll stop at some point, whatever that point is. I don't know. So it will probably be where I think I've made the most major changes I need to. But yeah, we'll see as we go. Okay, and then last thing, the tool I'm using is Cat Friendly's Armchair GM. You can see a link to that in the description there. It helps a lot because it does all the work for you with cap hit after trades and things like that. So, so that's the tool I'm using. Otherwise, I'm referencing my algorithm that I've created that I use for sports betting, which gives me expected scoring for players, and then that's a way that I can evaluate who I would want on my team, and then also the combined performance of the team. So, yeah, so that's that. Where do we start? So, first, I just want to see Goudreau if I would want to keep him. As weird of a sounding starting point that might be, you got to start with somebody, and he's the most expensive. So last year he had 40 goals. Was playing with good players. And I mean, he's been close previously, but again, it was still Calgary. So he had 36 goals in 2018-19. Otherwise sits around about 25 to 30 goals. So he got paid for, you could argue that 40 goal season. He's not getting crazy high paid. So he's not getting in the 11 million range like Matthews, or what's Tavares making? I think he's making 11, right? Marner 10.9. So he's not the most expensive player. He is for the team, but I don't think I'd get rid of that. So my starting point, obviously, what I want to do is get caps spending and cap space at a reasonable point where you can actually put together a decent team. And so I don't think in his case he hinders the team, given that his production for goals is quite high. So last year he was 15th in goals. So yeah, to be honest, I'd keep him. He's still young. Contract expires when he's 36, which is perfect timing. Expensive, yes, on the higher end of what I would want to pay for him, but I think he's elite enough where I could justify the price and keeping him. So we'll leave him be. Voracek, that's one that I'm nearly certain I would want to get rid of. The problem is getting rid of his contract is a problem. But let's have a look here. 2 years remaining, 8.25. His performance isn't that bad. You want more goals out of him, but he's not shy, not too far from a point per game. But again, the problem is trading him. Could you trade him? He traded away Cam Atkinson, which I think is what you would have wanted to have kept. Yeah, I would have preferred Atkinson. But anyways, so could they trade Voracek? I would say probably. It would probably be a trade deadline move to a team that's competing for a cup. So yes, you could trade him. He's only got 2 years. You'd want to go to a team that's competing, that has cap space. Who would have cap space? Colorado has 2 million, and I don't know for sure exactly how it works with contracts. I think they get prorated over the year. So from the trade deadline until the end, whatever that would be. So I don't think quite that they could quite afford him, but um, who else here? The Wild, I don't think will make the playoffs, although a lot of people do think they will. That's a potential landing spot if they're in the running. Jets could really use him. But I don't think that's a Jets kind of move. I mean, most teams would benefit from getting him. Islanders, but I don't think Islanders would want him either. Detroit makes a lot of sense, actually. So, because I think Detroit, well, they're going to be close for the to the playoffs. I think they're on track to be. I mean, it's early, but so that's a, and then the rest of the teams I couldn't. So the perfect trading partner would be Detroit. Uh, Otherwise, you'd want to do contract in, contract out, where it's an equivalent or near equivalent. So, like for example, with Colorado, you'd want somebody similar price, and then what goes to Colorado fills up their cap, and what goes out of Colorado uh, will be similar. So, for example, Nichushkin, they're not trading him, but just as an example of what they could do. So it doesn't make sense in so Eric Johnson, the defenseman, they could trade. Eric Johnson, do they have enough defense after him? Gerard, Taves, Byram. I don't think so. So I think Detroit makes the most sense. And I think Yzerman, I think, would do something like that. It kind of makes sense for him to do that. Uh, yeah, and then you could probably get him for cheap because that contract is difficult to trade. So it might actually be a salary dump as opposed to a trade for value. So let's start coming up with something here. Now, again, so one of the approaches I have is that the team that I'm representing has to lose the trade. Still, I have, so for example, for me to assume that Detroit's going to go with the trade, is it a fair assumption? I have no idea. But I can at least make it where the trade is realistic. And then that way, uh, it's conceivable that it could be done. So let's see here. Who could they trade for? Sunquist. What's their team looking like right now? So we have Andrew Kopp's doing so. Or Ernie, I don't know how it's pronounced. He's doing the same. Hronik about the same. Kubelik's doing well. Larkin's doing well. Holy Mata is actually doing quite well too. Perron, they're not going to get rid of. Raymond's doing all right. So it doesn't really look like there's anybody they're going to trade away. How much cap space do they have? $6 million. So they, do they have to shed? They haven't used LTIR, which they could be using, which is almost 10 million, more than 10 million. So they could conceivably afford him, I think. In any case, it's not too much of a move. So if they have to drop a couple million, I don't think it would be that crazy for them to have to do that. So to trade to Detroit, to be honest, I wouldn't trade okay, so ideally you'd be getting something back, but I think in this case I'd be doing a salary dump because I can't see anybody wanting to take on that contract. And if they do, I mean, you're not getting much back, I don't think. So essentially, you do have to give them away. So we'll just say third round pick, maybe. I don't think that's overshooting. Where can I see? Yeah, so even Pacioretty was a salary dump, and Pacioretty's even better performing. So no, I don't think you'd even get a third round back. You might even have to give a third round. So we'll just say for future considerations. Yeah. So dump that contract. That leaves you at a cap hit of 73.558 million. So 8.942 cap space. So, I guess what I should say is maybe I guess the strategy is getting rid of things that I wouldn't want there, and then whatever that results in is whatever that results in. So in this case, if that means that they're not a good team, well, I guess tough. You got to sort out your cap space and stuff. So Might that mean that you have a couple of tough years? Yeah. I mean, equally, you clear space for free agency. And where's Patrick Kane from? Um, Patrick Kane's from Buffalo. I mean, Columbus isn't far from Buffalo. Maybe that's a place you would want to go to. So right away there, I mean, you clear the space, and well, Goudreau went there. Where's Goudreau from? I think it's one of the northern states. I'm nearly certain. He's from New Jersey. So if he's from New Jersey and then would go over to Columbus, I mean, it's not inconceivable that they could get Kane. Um, so, anyways, at least start by clearing the space, and then you can do something, right? Um, so that's step one. Uh, Now, what else do we have? I think this is where the algorithm I have is going to help. So who? So Voracek right away was a good person to get rid of. Um, he's good to keep. He's fine. So because I'm a Jets fan, having watched Roslovic, I wasn't a fan of Roslovic, so my gut tells me that I would want to get rid of him, um, but his performance not isn't so bad. So to be honest, for his cap hit too, so uh, I guess would keep him in the end. Um, who else? He's fine. He's fine. Fine. Good value for Boone Jenner there. That's lucky. Joe Corrali's bad value. And I think that's it. Let me double check about another guy here. He's fine. Oh, and I forgot about Nyquist. Nyquist is fine. So all the contracts up front are perfectly fine. Corrali's the one I would want to get rid of. But his contract is small, so to be honest, we'll just leave that for now. We've already cleared up a whole bunch of cap space, so I'll just say on the subject, Corrali is somebody I would try to get rid of. Now, what's his contract? Corrali, where are you? 3 years left, so I would definitely try to get rid of him now. For what in return? Not to be mean, but a bag of pucks. At 2.5, you need to be producing more. Like last year wasn't so bad, but all previous years were very mediocre. And at 2.5, you need to be producing something. So, I mean, he's not young anymore. So there's no projected improvement to his performance. So definitely somehow get rid of that Corrali contract. Somebody would take it, I'm sure. Again, you might have to actually give a fifth round pick plus him for future considerations or something. But yeah, I would get that one off the books as well. Now, just because I should have a look at line A. Now, I'm nearly certain his value's fine, but um, you can't assume. You have to look. So last year, 26 goals, 56 points in 56 games. Perfectly good. Year before wasn't very good, uh, which it looks like an anomaly. And the rest of the years, 30 plus goals essentially. So 30 plus goals at 8.7, definitely good value. And as I'm sure you can gather, no person is untouchable on a team managed by me, except for maybe Connor McDavid or something like that. People I've mentioned previously, or Draisaitl, or some others. Um, even at really big cap hits, but that's where even some of those players I'd consider moving uh, if their cap hit was no good. So in getting rid of Voracek, whoops, wrong one. Yeah, in getting rid of him and replacing him with somebody already on the team, the change in expected goals, according to my algorithm, is essentially zero. So you just drop that much salary, and the performance I would predict would be approximately the same. Now, realistically, it wouldn't be, but it'd be close enough. So that's good news. So that's just for the forwards, and I'm comfortable with that. What I would want to do is pick up in free agency. Uh, well, what was it? I had 8.9 million. Um, yeah, 8.9 million in cap space. Pick up one um, good player or two decent players. I would lean towards two decent players because I think you can get better value. But it all depends on what you could get at that price. So if you could get Patrick Kane, maybe it's a better option than split between two 4.5 million players. In that case, I would say if you had maybe another 1.5 million, I'd go with splitting it. But because of the amount, I don't think at 4.5 million you're going to get the best value. 5.5, yes. 4.5, I think the value actually goes better with one player. Um, anyways, so that's what I would do with forwards. On defense, that's where I think the other moves are, or that's where I would do, I guess, the biggest moves here. So, Werenski, I'm nearly certain I'd be getting rid of because my basic rule is never have a defenseman getting paid above 6.5 million at this point in time. Because of course, that changes with um, inflation of salaries, but uh, nobody over 6.5 ish million unless there's somebody like Makar, and even that, it would be difficult for me to want to do that. Um, so Werenski best year 20. goals, 41 points in 63 games. So if he was producing that all the time, then the value is not crazy, but he's not. So, and I don't see him doing that. So trade him. And I think somebody else would pick him up at that value. It expires when he is 31. So really good. I mean, maybe not the best timing because he might ask for an expensive contract at that point too. But nonetheless, you have him through a chunk of his prime years. So yeah, definitely some other teams would want to pick up. So, um, hmm. Does he have 10-team trade list? Well, I should have checked that with Voracek. I don't think he has any terms. He does not. So 10 teams. Werenski's going to want to go to a team competing. Already my first instinct is Colorado because I think they would want him, and there's already a guy that you could trade with, where the cap space actually lines up. But let's consider other teams here. So he would probably want to go to Tampa, Florida. Where's Werenski from? Michigan. So maybe Detroit. I'm just assuming his favorite team. I don't think anybody wants to go to Toronto. We'll leave them out. Boston, but I don't think they could afford him. I don't think most of the teams I mentioned already could afford him, but Pittsburgh maybe. And we have to remember he's got all that term left, I think 6 years. So he wouldn't want to go to anywhere where he wouldn't want to spend 6 years. Maybe Rangers. Colorado. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7. Anywhere else? Maybe Carolina. Yeah, we'll chop it there. So Tampa, Florida, Detroit, Boston, Pittsburgh, Rangers, Colorado, Carolina. So that's what, 8 teams. So I would predict those would probably be the teams he'd want to go to on 8 of the 10 at least that he would go to on his trade list. Tampa. They could not afford him. Florida. And I should say nobody they would probably trade either. Ooh. So Bobrovsky, I would want to trade for, but problem is I don't think he would want to go back. So yeah, that's where I'd like to make that move because I would take that contract in a heartbeat to pick up the Bobrovsky one. Yeah, I mean, so all things considered, I would pick up that contract, but, anyways, so he's not going back to Columbus. I think no matter what, um, so unfortunately, it's not realistic here, and otherwise they can't, afford, picking him up, so, one sec here. So Florida, although it would be nice, can't be done. Uh, so we traded Voracek to Detroit already. See, I don't think Yzerman would take Werenski at that price. So, whereas with the Voracek, I think he would. So, there's no way I could see Detroit picking up Werenski, even though they could conceivably afford him. It's going to be one or the other, and but I don't think Yzerman would want that contract because it's longer term and expensive for a defenseman. I don't think he would. Um, so no for Detroit. Boston. I don't think they can afford him. Hmm. Now, what I would like to do, and would they have the ability to do it anyways? No, I don't think so. I guess conceivably you could put together a trade where Boston could take on Werenski. So, for example, Werenski for Lindholm and maybe somebody else to get the cap space right. I, I'm pretty sure Boston would definitely win that trade, and I would be happy with it because we'd be able to get rid of that expensive contract. And Lindholm in return would be, serviceable defenseman, obviously good, not Werenski good, but you clear out the cap space and it counts for something. Um, so I think it's doable, but I don't think because they have the McAvoy contract at 9.5 and to have two defensemen at 9 some odd million, I just don't see Boston doing it, even though they'd be improving. So we'll pretend Boston's a no. Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh could work. Jeff Petrie. At 6.5 versus Werenski. The performance is nearly the same between Petrie and Werenski. See, like that's a perfect example. Why are you paying so much for Werenski? It frustrates me. That's for sure. So they can't do that. They're not trading Letang. Dumoulin? Would they go for that? Dumoulin. I'd still have to get $5 million from somewhere else. They just re-signed Raquel, Rust, Zucker. Let's see, Zucker. That's a trade. Zucker and Dumoulin for Werenski. You definitely lose that trade, but I'd be perfectly happy to get rid of the cap space. Be making the team worse, but it's not a contract I would want. So, you deal with the consequences. So I think that actually would work, and I think Pittsburgh would go for it. Because it's Hextall's the GM. No offense to Hextall, but I think he's made some bad moves, and I think it's something he would do. What are some contracts he's done? He did the Voracek contract. Van Riemsdyk, not a good contract. Who else? And I mean, a few more are all decent. Any trades that he's done that are bad? See, I don't like the picking up of Raquel because he wasn't that great at the time that they did it. Jeff Carter was a great trade and signing. So it's possible. We'll just so we'll actually, you know what? I should pause on that one because I think Colorado actually might be a better fit, and I know Colorado would because they already signed one guy to a high price, and they can fit it. That's the other thing. New York's already got too much in defensemen, so they can't do it. So let's just look at Carolina before I move to Colorado. Ugh, that Brent Burns contract. Jordan Stahl. I think they'd give him up. Jordan Stahl. Anybody else? $8 million. So maybe in Carolina. I know they put a lot of emphasis on defense. They're using LTIR, so they're already overspending. Huh. So maybe we might have something with Carolina here. So they wouldn't get rid of Slavin. Burns, yes, but I wouldn't want that contract. It's still got 3 years. Ski, I Brady Ski. I don't know how it's pronounced. I don't think they'd get rid of him either. He was a first round pick too, so yeah, I don't think so. Pesci, Brett Pesci. They trade for him. Maybe. So Carolina's not a bad trading partner either. And I'd say it'd be easier for Carolina to do it. And like I said, they really seem to like defensemen. So man, but I think Pittsburgh would go for the trade too. See, that's the thing about these guys is Werenski, most of these teams would like him. So now Colorado, Eric Johnson, they get rid of, but McKinnon's contract comes into effect next year, and they can't afford him next year. So that's $6 million. They have $2 million in cap space, so that's $4 million. That they're over. Wait. Can they afford him? So that goes off, that goes on. No, they can't. There's no way. So Colorado couldn't do it either. Yeah. So Carolina and Pittsburgh. I think both would be on Werenski's list. Maybe not Pittsburgh because they're not doing so well. So I guess just for that reason, we'll pretend that Pittsburgh's not on the list. And in all likelihood, Carolina would be. So we'll trade Werenski to Carolina for Jordan Stahl and where is it here? Brett Pesci. I think they would go for that. Also, Jesper Fast could be in there, but and then maybe somebody else. But I think that's ballpark. What? Well, they sent Martinuk to the minors. He's only got 2 years left. But they can't get rid of all their forwards. Let's look at their line combinations. Currently, Teravainen, Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, Kotkaniemi, Nekis, Martinuk, Stahl, Fast. Yeah, if we got rid of a whole line almost, that would not work. So Pesci has to be the guy. So Stahl and Pesci for Werenski. Pesci has 2 years left. Stahl is expiring this year. So essentially, Hurricanes are getting rid of a contract that doesn't have the best value in Stahl, and it expires. So really, there's not much trade value. And then Pesci's the only one that's worth anything, but you're actually getting Werenski in exchange. So why wouldn't you do that? But for me, the reason I'd want to do this is the Stahl contract. Oh, he's got a no move clause. Jeez. Is that even possible then? Would he do that for the franchise? I'd say probably. Why would he get in the way? I think he would do it for the franchise. And worst case, if you can't do that, then you make some combination of Fast, Martinook, and somebody else to get it up to the same cap hit or close enough. Yeah, so we'll pretend that Jordan Stahl would go for it. So Werenski for Stahl and Pesci. I'd be happy to pick up Pesci as a as a defenseman that you'd keep. Only 2 years left, so if you want to get rid of him, easy enough. So I'd be happy with that. So, and we should say, just a contrast. So Pesci, 7 goals, 28 points last year. On average, Werenski is 11 goals, 40, we'll say 40, 45 points. So I guess his 18-19 year was closest. So 11 goals, 44 points versus 7 goals, 28 points. I mean, there's a difference there, but not that much of a difference. And a cap hit difference of 5.5 million. For me, it's an absolute no-brainer to get rid of the Werenski contract and bring in Pesci instead. And like I said, if you don't like him, you can get rid of him in the end. I just think it makes tons more sense for flexibility. And like I said, the Stahl contract, you let it expire, and then that's another 6 million in cap space that you can spend on free agents potentially. So, in effect, at the end of the year, or wait, I should just go back and double check. There's no other expiring. So Nyquist expires, but you would probably want to re-sign because his value is good. Chinakov's not going to cost that much, and Olivier's not going to cost much. Gavrikov might cost a chunk, and you could afford him. So yeah, I'd be happy with that. Lots of cap space, and the performance isn't really going to change that much. So plug it into the algorithm. So instead of Werenski, we get SCE. So there is a clear drop in the performance, but it's still not that far in my algorithm. So again, perfectly happy with that trade. And then again, remember you do have Stahl. So if you add in Stahl, I think that compensates. And just for argument's sake, let's do that. So we get rid of him. Oops. Add in him. and you actually improve in the trade. So getting rid of Werenski, you improve with Jordan Staal and Brett Pesce. So again, that's short term because you wouldn't want to keep Staal, or at least at that price. But uh, why you wouldn't do that, I don't know. So, anyways, so that's one more trade. After that trade, 8.5 million in cap space. Plus, at the end of the year, you gain the 6 million from Staal. So that's 14.5 million you could spend on anybody. Kane, Bo Horvat if he's a free agent. Who else is becoming a free agent? Taves, O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Klingberg, Pacioretty, potentially Pasternak. I mean, so 14 million, you could have O'Reilly and Pacioretty potentially, or O'Reilly and Tarasenko, or Kane and I don't know, Zucker or something like that. So, anyways, you got a way better combination than what you currently have because you cleared the cap space. So that's to justify that. So now the last one that I didn't like was Goodbranson because 4 million, and I'm pretty sure his performance isn't good enough. Now, I know he's a defensive defenseman, and that counts for something, but at 4 million, that's expensive for a defensive defenseman, in my opinion. So he had 17 points in 78 games last year, which is decent. Plus 15, decent still too. So he's got 4 years remaining, including this year. Expires at 34 years old. So I would want to trade it. I think in terms of argument, I'm pretty sure you could shed that. It's not overly expensive. If you wanted to, you could keep him too. It's not the worst contract to have. I mean, I would try to shed it. What you could replace him with, that's a good question. Don't know. Free agents, who do we have on defense? Klingberg, as I mentioned, Eric Johnson, Matt Dumba, Orlov would be very good. Gostisbehere, another great one. I wonder if Clefbaum is expected to play again. I don't remember. I think they said that he's not going to, but I can't remember for sure. Severson and from New Jersey. Dumoulin. Like, I mean, you got lots of options to fill the gap. So I would try to trade him if you could get value back. Even if you couldn't get value back, I'd still trade him because he's overpaid, in my opinion. So so that's what I would say is trade him too. So we'll just initiate the trade for nothing because the assumption is you could trade him for something or at least trade him away, and then you'd have that space. So then now it's 12.5 million cap space plus the 6 million that you get from the Staal contract expiring. So you'd be in great shape to do whatever you want with the franchise. Um, you don't even like you're not even really in a rebuild. You could if you wanted to. I mean, you could keep it as is and kind of try to rebuild from there. You're kind of at an in between from keeping Goudreau and Line. But I mean, through free agency, you could jump right into competitive for a playoff spot. Um, anyways, uh, that's it for defense. Now let's look at the goalies because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't want either of them. Why do you have this guy? I mean, he had a good first year, kind of short season. Uh, Merzlikins, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. 923 in 33 games, 916 in 28, 907 in 59. And this year's not a good start, but I mean, the team's not very good. Then Corpusalo, he's only got 1 year left. And his numbers are subpar. So I'd let him expire. So yeah, Corpusalo, I'd let go. And then, or I mean, what is he good enough to be a backup? Maybe. No, his stats aren't even good enough to be a backup. It's below 900 save percentage. So it's like he's gone. Now the problem is moving that Merzlikins contract. I don't think you could. I don't think there's any way you could unless you retained cap. So you're stuck with this goalie for 5 years. Now 5.4, it's expensive for a guy that really could not play as much. But if you spread it out over two goalies, you spend 3 million on a 1B kind of goalie, like what's his face over in Detroit, Nelkovich or something like that. Because there's got to be someone around there at 3 something million or 4 million if you have to. And then you'd be fine in net because this guy's splitting the time in net. He's good enough to split time. So, but I would be unhappy to have that contract. But it's one of those you wouldn't be able to get rid of it, I'm pretty sure. So I think that's essentially all I would do. So to recap here, it is trade Voracek to Detroit was my prediction that you'd be able to get away with that for nothing, just a shedding salary. And I think Detroit would pick that up because they should be competing for a cup. And he's only got 2 years left. So it's not like you're picking up a big burden of a contract. So I think it's something Yzerman would do. And then trade Werenski to Columbus, or sorry, from Columbus to Carolina for Stahl and Pesci. It would require Stahl to waive his no move, but I think he'd do that for the franchise, considering he's had a good time with them. And he's a leader. I think it's something you'd do. In worst case, you could replace him with a few other contracts like Martinook and Jesper Fast and maybe somebody else or whatever if you had to. But and I think they'd get rid of Pesci for Werenski because Werenski's an improvement and they seem to like defensemen in Carolina. So I think that would actually pan out. And they have nobody getting that much money on defense at the moment. So I think it's conceivable. And then Goodbranson, trade him away to whoever would take him, and you don't expect much back, but preferably something, maybe a draft pick like a third round or set our 4th round, 5th round, something like that. Hopefully you get back, but otherwise you just want to shed the contract because I think he's overpaid for his role. And that way, like I said, in the end, you get 12.5 million cap space. You let the Stahl contract expire because it's only got this last year left. That leaves you 18.5 million that you can then spend on free agency. You cross your fingers, you could get somebody like Kane or a combination of O'Reilly and what was the defenseman there? Klingberg, something like that, to fill up that cap space. So, I mean, and as far as I'm concerned, you add in that well, actually, you know what? Just for argument's sake, let's do that. So let's add in Klingberg. So this is just for illustrative purposes. Whether they could get these two guys or not, who knows? So Klingberg and who is most likely for them to pick up? Where's Pacioretty from? He's from Connecticut. Maybe Pacioretty? Let's just pretend it's Pacioretty. Oh no, well, maybe. Where is he here? So maybe this is an overestimate of how good they would do, but let's say they could pick up Pacioretty and Klingberg. That puts them up to middle of the pack in expected scoring. Whereas at the moment in my algorithm, they're 24th. So moves them up. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots. So I moved them up 8 spots in my algorithm from getting rid of who I mentioned to get rid of and then replacing with what I mentioned, and then assuming they can get people in free agency. But worst case, let's say they can't even get those free agent guys. They're still essentially, as far as my algorithm is concerned, more or less the same team. So you get nearly as good performance, and you got tons of cap space. So tons of flexibility to improve the franchise as you see fit, which is what I would want if I inherited this team. So I think that covers it then. Relatively quick and painless, it feels like, compared to what I dealt with yesterday with Winnipeg, because I just couldn't find anything that could be done. Thankfully, when you have good players, even if they're expensive, you can move them because somebody's going to want to pay that because market value dictates what people get paid. And if they're in market value, somebody's going to want them, and then you can probably make moves to make it happen. So, so that's what I would do with Columbus. I think that would improve them. Of course, that's arguable, and people might disagree, and especially disagree with getting rid of like Werenski, probably one of the better defensemen in the league. So maybe I'm crazy, but it's like I said, in terms of the numbers, after you run the numbers again, at least through my algorithm, the team's just as good. So, so that's it. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends. Otherwise, if you subscribe, that'd be appreciated. Turn on notifications. Then you can be advised of any changes or upcoming streams. I'm assuming that it does that. I should probably test that at some point, but haven't done that. So, but subscribe and turn on notifications. That should do something. I hope that it works correctly. You could always go to my channel homepage. That'll tell you when I'm streaming next. Um, and yeah, any comments, suggestions, of course, leave them in the comments. Feedback is appreciated, welcome. And then topic suggestions. I shouldn't run out of topics to cover because I am very interested in hockey and lots of different things to say, but to better meet your guys' interests and needs and whatever. So don't be shy to give me some ideas. And last, just a reminder, so the timing of the streams changed now to 1 p.m. Eastern. If it doesn't meet your schedule, I apologize, but you can always come back and watch the stream afterwards. And then if you want to interact, you can always just leave comments to accomplish what you want. So I think that covers everything. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow, I am pausing this series just for one day to kind of, mix it up a little bit. I think I know the subject. It's one that I was going to cover like half a week ago. And so I'm going to probably do that, but that's undecided anyways, which, like I said, on the scheduled stream, it says to be determined, which really it is. So, but yeah, tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. See you guys then.